Hey guys, this is Flavio from Studio Mob. Today I will show you how to install and work with the Quizionic 4 package and how to install it in your computer and run it from there. So when you open your Quizionic 4 package, you have this folder structure with a couple of folders. So there is a readme.txt file that you have to open to follow the instructions. So let's just have a look at it. So the first step is to ensure that you have the node.js installed in your system. If not, you have to visit this website to grab it from there. Make sure that you also have Ionic and Cordova framework installed in your system. If not, after the installation of Node, please run this script as well. And when that is done and you have everything in your environment already set up, you can jump into the creation of the Ionic project. So let's just move from there. I will call this Ionic Quizionic 4. We'll start with a blank Ionic project. This will create the basic Ionic project. Here we'll say no, and there we go. We have our project folder. So let's just the 4, and there we go. Okay, so now what you can do, if you work also with the Visual Studio Code as your main editor, is to add that into your workspace. So let's just add that. It will be more easily to work with your created project. Okay, so there you go. This is the standard Ionic project. You may run it if just a way to confirm there is created. And by the way, this also will create a WView folder in your project, right? When this is activated. So let's just wait. It's coming. Build successfully. And we should hit the local host. Okay, so there we have our Ionic blank project as it has been created. Okay, so let's move into the other steps. Okay, so Control C just to close that, and let's move into the next step. Okay, the next step is to enable Cordova. So what you have to do is simple run this enable command to enable Cordova in your environment. Okay, so basically what it does is it will create a config.xml, and it will also add the resources folder in your project, right? And definitely we have to update those things here to make sure that you have your own configuration of the Quizionic package. Okay, so before doing that, let's just copy the rest of the file for this project. As mentioned here, we have to copy the source folder from the package that you have bought. So let's go there. Basically, we have to take this folder as it is and copy into this one, just to replace all the source file created by Quizionic. So what I will do is just to simple cp. Well, you can do it from here depending if on your system, right? I'm working on a Mac Windows, but you can do it from the internet, the Explorer, the file explorer of your Windows machine, or you can do it from the terminal. It's up to you how to copy those files. I will do it from here. So I have to replace this. I will take this one, going here, let's say that replace. Okay, so we have replaced the source folder. The next step, as by the instruction provided here, is to copy the resources. So let's just do that. By the way, you can generate your own resources. You know how to do it. It's just Cordova, Ionic Cordova resources. This will generate all the required splash and icons image files. And in order to create them, you have to provide the icon.png and splash.png under the resources folder. I already did it, so it's up to you. This is just the one that I'm providing in this package. So what I will do is just copy that and replace it. Okay, so now when let's just refresh the folder. So when I'm here, we can see that we have the Quizionic 4 icon and splash screen. Okay, so let's go back to the instructions. So we have copied the source folder, we have copied the resources. We need to copy this build.js file. This JavaScript file is basically to avoid an issue when building this application with the latest Xcode. So basically it puts a flag and instruct Xcode compiler just to avoid an error. So you can copy that as well. And then there is a package JSON file that is important to copy. Okay, so let's move there. We have the build JSON file and the package. So I will take those two and I will add it as well into the project, and I replace the one that I have already. Okay, so as you have replaced the package JSON file, Ionic used to create a copy of that. So you can basically delete this one. You don't need it. The package JSON, the package -lock.json file, you can delete it at this time. Okay, and the next step is when you have done this, and I will include this, I will add the instruction here just to delete that log file. So make sure to update the config and the package.json. Let's see, package. It's important that you realize that when you create your project, in my case it's Quizionic 4, it's important that this name is exactly the same one that you are using here at the moment when you create the Ionic project. In this case, we are targeting version 0.41.0, and you can replace, of course, your author and homepage. Okay, and I included a couple of additional steps here in the package. So everything is here to install, including even the plugins of Cordova. here what is important is to replace the Facebook Cordova plugin with your app ID and your app name. Okay, so that process you have to take those from the Facebook developer portal. Okay, so I provided the link in the instruction. So you have to go there, and when you have those values, just put it here. Okay, so currently I have those one. So I will take them from the one that I have. Okay, and when it's done, let me grab that one from a previous project. Let's take this one here. So what I need is to grab my ID. So you have to find your own app ID. Okay, so when that is done and this is updated, you save the file, you can close it. That's it. All right, so let's continue with the other steps. So then we have to do kind of same modify on the config XML file. This is the file used by Cordova at the moment to create the platform and install the plugins required for each of those platforms. So let's just have a look. As you can see, this has to match your app ID, the one that it will be used to identify your application in both App Store or Google Play Store. So here in my case, this is Studio Mob Quizionic 4. Okay, and this is version 4.1.0, and this is very important. The reason why is because this will be used at the time when you upload the APK on the Google Play Store, and when you sign the APK, this is very important because it has to match with the configuration of your Google Play Store in order for the application to properly work with the in-app purchase or in-app billing. Okay, otherwise if it doesn't match and if you doesn't provide a signed APK and you don't run it in your device, not even the emulator, the in-app purchase or in-app billing will won't work. Okay, so keep that in mind. And here where I say my app, definitely this is Quizionic 4. This is very important before installing any platform, any plugin, because otherwise they will refer to a different application. Okay, so let's just update that. You can also update this in my case. Okay, and of course for general purposes we'll put. All right, so almost done. So you can keep the rest. Okay, and you see this is the standard plugins that are referred at the moment of Cordova overall installation. So having made that, we can then proceed with the rest of the steps. So just save this file, close it. So now we have two options here. You can go with the manual procedure, which is basically described here, where you have to add the remaining plugins manually. And here, as you can see, if you didn't have yet the app ID or you didn't install it yet, sorry, if you didn't get the app ID, do it right now. Go into Facebook developer console to grab your app ID, and you have to put exactly the same name that you are using in your package, right? So in my case it's Quizionic 4. So you have to replace this value, and you have to replace this value at the moment when you install the plugin. Okay, and then you have to continue installing a couple of native Ionic native files to support those plugins. Okay, and the final step is to install the chart.js. Okay, so this is basically the manual step. Now the automated installation, just by running this, it will install whatever is indicated in the package JSON. So if you are replacing the package JSON with the one that I have provided in Quizionic folder, it has already, as you can see, the Ionic native, as well as the chart, as well as the Cordova plugins here. So in order to get this done quickly, what you can do is just npm install, and basically what it will do is to install all these plugins and all the natives and all the necessary files, right? So let's just do that. Okay, so what it has been completed is the installation of pretty much all those required files, and now at the moment when you add the platform, Ionic Cordova platform at iOS, it will take all this information and add all the plugins and also update the config.xml to include those plugins that are not yet ready here. Okay, so let's do that by using the Ionic Cordova platform at iOS. Okay, so this error, you can stop it here. The reason why it's failing is because the Ionic Cordova generate resources for any reason is not working. This is an error mainly caused on the Ionic portal or a Cordova portal when trying to upload the source image. As mentioned already, as I provided them, you can use them, or if you have this issue as described here, you see if Ionic Cordova resources fails, you can download this Cordova REST generator that you can install in your system and run this script. And it will create all the icons and resources, not only for Android iOS, but also for Windows Mobile and Blackberries. Okay, so as I have that already in place, I don't have to do any other step in regards of the resources. Okay, so the platform, as you can see, is already there. The iOS is there. And then the plugins, so we can see all those plugins were installed. However, it seems that the other plugins were not taken into consideration because they were not into the config file for any reason. They should be there. So what we can do at this point is I can use it manually. Okay, I will do it manually. You can install it manually as well as describe it here, right? In the past, when doing the npm install, it was creating all those missing plugins in the config.file. For any reason, it's not doing it right now, which is weird. Anyway, let's just fix that. So what we have to do basically is to grab this guy here and edit manually. Sorry about it, but this is what we have to do. Then we have to also add the payment. Yep. And then we also have to put the SQL storage. And the Facebook, right? So for the Facebook one is Cordova plugin add Cordova plugin Facebook for variable app name Quizionic for, in my case, variable app ID, and that's the app ID that we used so far. So let's just add it. So now if we refresh this, let's just close this guy. Why it's not there? Oh, because we didn't put the save. Oh, so sorry. Okay, so we forgot to just say save. This will include it in the save and save. And there is one more, right? Yeah, save. So this should save them in the config file, hopefully. Not yet, why not? Since this guy is not taking care of the files. Well, that should be there. That's really weird, because we can see they are in the JSON file. So what's important is that they are here, they are included here. Okay, and platforms, we can see this is the iOS that has been created. Okay, so do I missing any other step? Let's check it out here. What is important in order to run this this package is to remember that in the asset folder in source API assets, this is the database, right? The populated database that contains already some sample data that you need to put in place, right? So without this database file, the application won't work, right? So we need to put this in here in the www folder. So you can copy it manually, or just as mentioned, I provided a shortcut in the package JSON file. So what we have to do is simple as npm run init. And what it does is basically put that file in the www folder, as you can see. So it's copied right now. Okay, so database is there, which is fine. And we also have the rest of the things already there. So what we should do at this point is to attempt to run in iOS. Do it to a couple of issues with the iOS simulator. I mean the iOS -sim package for Cordova. You have to put the following in your terminal. So let's just do it. So we'll start with Ionic, Cordova, run iOS. If you want to the live update the console, just add those as well option. Then we have to specify the target. This is very important, otherwise it won't start the emulator right now until it will get fixed. Then you have to also put just put it here so you can see the full command. Okay, so it's Apple. You have to put here the core simulator, sim runtime. So you can also has to specify the runtime that you wanted to use for the emulator. And then of course, just to avoid another issue with the Xcode, you should avoid to try to use the modern build system. So we will pass this flag to indicate Xcode to avoid the use of the modern build. Okay, by putting that with a 0 value. Okay, so again, this is Ionic Cordova Run, iOS. A couple of options here for live, reload, console, the target. That's again here. We specify the device, the version for such device, in this case iOS 12.2, and then the build flag to avoid another issue in Xcode. Okay, so we hit enter. Then we specify if you have more than one IP, that is my case, just for the live reload, you select that. Otherwise, if you only have one, it won't ask you. And see what it does is compiling the project, building it, build succeeded, and it's loading right now the simulator for iOS. And bringing the Quizionic for into it. So here we can see that it's working. We can access the exam. We can load the questions. We can just confirm it, navigate, and so on. Okay, so that's it for iOS and the the installation. Remember that the in-app purchase, the store, won't be available when you attempted to access from the simulator. Okay, so you will get this error, but when you test in device, it will work as expected. Okay, so thanks guys, and then we'll move into the Android compilation and execution. All right, so once you have your environment and all the files configured, the config.xml as well as the other one for the package zone. So, and you have the opportunity to add the Android platform. So let's just go there and do it. So that will be Ionic Cordova platform at Android. And see what it does. So again, this is an error with the Cordova resource generator. There is a workaround where you can use another tool, as mentioned in here in my file. If that's the case, you can use the Cordova res generator. You can install it locally and run it from there, and it will generate all the resource image files. So at this point, the Cordova Android platform is installed, so we should be able to run the Quizionic application. So let's just attempt to do it. We'll clear it. Ionic Cordova run Android, and you can specify if you wish the live reload by using the L. Otherwise, you just run the command as it is. So build has been successfully. Now we are starting the emulator and is installing it on there. So let's just wait until the boot is complete. Install and launching the application right now. Okay, so we are in the emulator. I already had the database installed in my Android emulator as I ran it before, being the reason why it automatically did the login. But from here, I mean, you can just play with Quizionic. So this has installed correctly the database inside the emulator. So from here you can start playing with Quizionic. Of course, the performance under this emulator is not the best one. Remember that when you wanted to put it in your device, of course it will run more faster. Even more if you, instead of providing the debug APK, you provide the production or release package. And remember that before uploading it into the Google Play Store, you have to sign it. Okay, and when that is signed, you will be able to use all the features, kind of, for instance, the store. Okay, so store is not available for purchase. This won't appear in your device. So there are a couple of things that you have to configure as well in the Google Developer Console, where you have to put your product, as well as you have to create the tester users that will be able to do transactions without any cost. Okay, so from here, as you can see, you can navigate and use Quizionic, different features. For instance, remember that we have this feature to update the database that is on the device. If you click update device now, it will connect to the remote server. In this case, it's connecting to my remote server, checking the information that I have in the remote MySQL database, and downloading whatever is not yet included in the device database. So you can also, of course, access the developer page and change things from here. You can select if you want the statistics on an exam or all those things. On the other case, you can also access the login as mentioned from the emulator. You can invoke the Facebook login. So when you do Facebook login, it will ask you for your Facebook user. Okay, in my case, it's already there, so I just hit and continue. It will get the token from the Facebook and allow me to go into the rest of the application. So that's it, guys. This is just to show you Quizionic 4 and how you can get it on your system running, in this case, on an Android emulator. Okay, so we have covered iOS, we have covered Android, and you may probably ask yourself, okay, how we can run it under browser, right? Under Chrome or Safari. So what I will show you is basically the steps that you need in order to get it under Chrome. By the way, in the documentation folder of your Q4 delivery package, you have an index.html file. Please open it. It has exactly all the information that you need to install this package in your system, as we have covered it. And there are a couple of other informations there. This is basically covering for the emulators as well as the browser. So the first things when you are trying to get it under the browser is that the database file, the one that I'm mentioning, is basically, you know, the Q4 data.db, right? The same one that you have in this folder, the www. Okay, so what's important here is that without that file in the right folder for your specific browser, it won't work. Okay, so if you're running under Windows XP, Windows 10, 8, 7, Vista, these are the typical folder for Google Chrome where you should put the database file. Now, I will show for Mac OS, the computer that I'm using. So let me show you exactly what you have to put there, because most of the people they used to ask me, okay, menu is not shown in the when opening the application in the with the Ionic serve command, right? So let me show you why that happened. That happened because the database file is not there. Without the database file, remember, this is a database driven application, so without the database file, it won't start properly, because the configuration as well as the information for categories, exam, and questions is stored in the database. So without that database, the application won't start as expected, and therefore you will get issues from there, right? So if we try to go into those folders, let's see, I will jump into one of them in my system. Okay, so as you can see, here is library, application support, Google Chrome, default database, and then the local host and the port. This port 8100 is mainly the, I would say, the typical port that your Ionic project use, but it might be different as well. Let's say if your local host, when you do Ionic serve, is serving the server to listen on the 8000 port instead of the 8100, well, you should take it into account, right? That's one thing. But in my case, this is the port, so I'm going to this folder. Okay, so application support, in Google Chrome default, okay. There are a couple of other folders, and there you go, you have databases, and then you have this folder as well, which is this one, okay. Now explore what we have here, okay. So people used to just copy the file here, as I have it right there, right? So I have it here, you can see, same file, okay. Now if you leave it as it is, it won't work, okay. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's remove them. So let's say that, okay, you grab the file, you put it on there, and you didn't follow the other step, okay. If you attempt to do Ionic serve, okay, Quizionic seems to be loaded properly. However, when you go here, there is nothing. So that's not the behavior that we want, right? Now, you see that when we started the application, in that folder, right now, the application created 2 files. And those file names are only numeric file names. So we have the 144 and 143, okay? What are those files, right? Now, if we click here into the developer tools, we go into the web SQL, and we are getting, by the way, a couple of issues here, right? Trying to get some information from the database. As you can see, it's calling the DB service, okay, from a Quizionic package, and it's getting error because it cannot access the information in database. Okay, now here we have 2 database files, the Q4 data DB, which is empty. You can see that there is no tables there. And then we have the Q4 progress DB, and this one is created at the time when you execute for the first time the Quizionic package. Okay, now we need the depopulated file to be here. Now we have that file here. However, Chrome, it seems that he cannot see it, and the reason why is because Chrome only uses numeric file names to identify the database for the web SQL component. So how can we fix that? Okay, let me show you. There are 2 options. The first one is just to attempt to rename this file with one of these 2, but we don't know which one corresponds exactly, because one of them is corresponding to one of them here, and the same thing for this one, and we don't know which one is it. So what you have to do is, in this folder, remember that we are in the local host, so in the parent folder there is a database.db file. This is database folder. Let's just go back here just for a moment. So I'm here, right, in this folder, databases, and there is a database.db file. If you have the DB browser for SQL, which is a tool that is free, by the way, guys, you can grab it. If you open it and you go into the browse data of that file, okay, which is this guy here, database.db, we can see that there is an ID which is basically the file name. And you can see that the 143 and 144 are the files that we have in here, right? So we have the 143. To do as mentioned, we have to rename the file that we have put it in that folder. I mean in this HTTP localhost underscore 8100. This one, which is the database that we copy from the www, the source asset file, and the one that contains your content, the populated database, right? So we need this file to be renamed as the one that Chrome is expecting, which is the 143. Okay, so to do that in Mac OS, well, first of all, we have to delete the 143. We know that that file is a reference to this one, so we delete it, and then we'll rename it by using the get info, because if you do it right away from here, the extension will be there, and we don't need the extension because the file doesn't have any extension. Chrome doesn't won't recognize the file if it has an extension. So what we have to do is just simply put the number, and it will ask in this case if we want to put the extension, and we want to remove the extension in this. So right now we have renamed the Q4 DataDB into this number, which is the number that Chrome will use to refer to this database. And now if we go back into here and we'll just hit the reload, it has reloaded the application, and right now on the web SQL Q4 DataDB we have all the tables and the populated information required to run the Quizionic package. And at the same time we can see from the console that we don't have any error. And there you go, guys. You have the full menu. So this is the step, very important. Don't just grab the file and copy it here. You have to rename it properly so Chrome can recognize the file, the right file that has the reference to the database. You don't need to do it for the for ProgressDB because that one is created empty by Quizionic package for the first time that it runs. And of course, Quizionic created the other one previously because there was no one to load, and therefore the SQL plugin, it creates automatically that file if the file doesn't exist. So that's why we have to put it here. Now, this is just for the browser execution. You don't need to do this step for device. Okay? Not even needed for the emulator simulators of iOS or Android. This process, this step, is just required for the execution under browser, in this case Chrome. Safari has a similar manner. Okay, so when you are updating the content, let's say that you have updated content in your package, adding questions, categories, exam, whatever, if you want to see those updates in here in the browser, please remember to copy the file again and rename it with the proper expected file that Chrome is using to reference that database. So if you have updated the content, copy it here, rename it properly, and you will see the updated content as well under browser execution. Otherwise, it will always take the same file. the same one that was put it there. Thanks guys, that's it. So here we have demonstrated how to install the Quizionic package, how to run it in iOS simulator, how to run it in Android simulator, as well as under Chrome. Hope that this helps you to test this Quizionic package, and we'll see from there. Thanks so much.